Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar. The topic is RBT Ethics Code and Scenario for supervisors, although obviously the scenarios will be very relevant to RBTs as well. And this is predominantly a Q&A session with Dr. Bailey. We have a lot of interesting scenarios that have been submitted, and I think that Dr. Bailey and I are very much looking forward to the presentation. Next slide, please, Crystal. Housekeeping. Please post your questions in the questions box. If we have time, one of our moderators will select a few to present to our panelists. I would really strongly encourage you to submit questions today because this is meant to be a very interactive session. And the RBT Ethics Code, just like the Ethics Code for behavior analysts, is really not that clear cut. So the more examples, more scenarios, better. If you have any technical difficulties, please contact GoToWebinar directly. Oh, by the way, the reason I'm not on video today is because I'm experiencing technical difficulties with bandwidth, so I apologize. We'll have a 5-minute break near the halfway point. A recorded version of the webinar will be available for outcomes and objectives. List the similarities and differences between the RBT code and the ethics code, PECC, Professional Ethics and Compliance Code, so that we can differentiate between the two. Apply the RBT ethics code in practice. Identify the sections of the RBT code in which supervisees must demonstrate mastery. I guess I would say the same for supervisors as well. Identify additional training and guidance that RBTs should receive during their supervision sessions. Identify common ethical dilemmas RBTs may experience during practice on how to resolve the conflicts, and provide examples of when RBTs need to seek guidance from their supervisors on ethics or practice-related matters. You flip, please, Crystal. My name is Cheung. I'm the founder and CEO of Special Learning, and I've had the privilege of being able to work with Dr. Bailey for about 4 years or so approximately, and learning a lot about the ethics code. And now with this ethics code as well, RBT Ethics Code. And Dr. Bailey, all of you guys are familiar with him. So John, I don't know what you want to say. You know, it's a couple minutes, I think, for you to provide your thought behind all of this.
Well, welcome to the webinar. Look forward to discussing some of the scenarios that have come in. I'm particularly interested in the RBT Ethics Code. I think it is going to be a game changer as far as making it clear to RBTs what the rules are, and they've been organized to make it easy for RBTs to follow along in terms of their practice and how they can find answers to their questions. There are gray areas, and that's where we hope to fill in some of that today. I guess I'm ready to go.
Okay, wonderful. So let's see. Give me 1 second, please. Thank you very much. Okay, well, let's talk about impact of supervision for the field of behavior analysis and some interesting facts. I think that we all understand and know that the supervision is the single greatest factor to either move the field of behavior analysis forward or destroy the hard-won legitimacy developed over 25 years. How many years, John, do you think has the ABA in practice? Has it been around? Has it been about 25 years or 30 years? We're such a young field.
I would say probably mid-70s was when there actually started to be consulting firms and private agencies coming into existence. Prior to that time, ABA was largely done in residential institutional settings, and behavior analysis really hadn't developed very much. The Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis came out in '68, and many people mark that as the beginning of the field, but it took several years for that to catch on, and even more years for people to begin to see the potential for this to be an actual profession. I'd say that really didn't happen until probably the mid-90s. And then, of course, in the late 90s, we had the the organization Behavior Analyst Certification Board, which marks the official beginning of the profession. But I would say, like I said, mid to late 70s is when people start to see, oh yes, this could be done outside of a laboratory setting.
When do you think ABA became a business? Because it didn't start out to be a business, but now it's actually a big business.
Yeah. Well, I think it became big business once states started passing laws that required insurance companies to pay for ABA services. And that goes back about roughly 10 years. Up until that time, ABA wasn't very widespread. It wasn't well known and wasn't widespread, and services that were available were expensive. So it was all out-of-pocket expenses for anybody that wanted it. But once insurance companies recognized ABA as the gold standard for treatment in ASD, then the floodgates opened, because now there's funding, and about the same time, the CDC was promoting these stats showing what the incident rate of autism was, and I think that was kind of a coming together of funding and recognition that autism was a major factor in our culture, actually, at that point. Parents, another thing that came together was the internet. So now parents could talk to each other and compare notes and find out, I'm getting this with my insurance company and I'm not getting that with mine. And so they actually combined together their access to the internet and their insurance money, I think, then made a lot of funding available, and businesses came forward to meet the demand.
And the one big takeaway I think that you guys probably all realize, and definitely the scenario as well, emphasize is the impact of big business on the field and the quality outcomes, and also the scenarios that we're going to be going over and the situations in which the RBTs and BCBAs find themselves in with regard to the ethical dilemmas actually has to do with the fact that the field has now become big business. So some of the facts, which you guys might have heard before, supervisees outnumber supervisors 2-to-1, and we'll have some graphs and charts for you to so that we can better illustrate this. Over 52% of BCBAs have been certified for less than 4.5 years. 100% of RBTs have been credentialed for less than 4.5 years. There are over 68,000 people who require supervision certificates. And just in 2019, our field will need almost 5 million hours of supervision. And yet there are less than 40,000 certificates, the BACB certificates, available to provide the 5 million hours of supervision. So moving on, because there you go. So John, what do you think about this chart? What does it say to you?
It makes the hair stand up on my arms when I see this, because this is truly scary. The orange line going almost straight up, representing that one, showing the rate of increase of RBTs, which is clearly outstripping the blue line, which is the number of people available to supervise those people. And I guess the scary thing to me is that RBTs, when they are supervised, are not supervised very much. It's a small percentage of the entire time that they work with clients that they're being supervised. Basically, it didn't start out this way, but basically the RBTs have become the face of behavior analysis. The RBTs are the people that the clients see most often, by many, many hours more often. So if they're in the home, they could be working in shifts, but they may be seeing RBTs in their home 5, 6, maybe even 8 hours a day. and then they occasionally see a supervisor. So what they know, the consumer, knows about behavior analysis is what they pretty much know from their RBTs, which means that they need to be really well trained and prepared to represent the profession. Families will see BCBAs, but only occasionally, and that's largely because they're stretched very thin. And so, you know, I see in this a greater need than anybody ever expected for the growth of supervisors and some better mechanism to supervise the RBTs.
So I think that we're in the process of achieving a really big milestone. So as of right now, we have a little bit under 100,000 certificates. And as good as it is in terms of our the ability to provide more services to clients, it's creating a lot of issues for us internally as a field in terms of the quality of outcomes. So the demand for supervision hours. The next slide here is, I'm not going to go over it, but as you can see, the yellow highlighted column is the number of RBTs that require supervision. As you guys probably are all aware of, 5% of the hours that RBTs are performing behavior analytics services need to be supervised by a BCBA, BCABA, and BCBA-D, although typically that probably is not typical. Can we speak to the 5% requirement, John? The supervision requirement?
Yeah, that seems a very small sample to be able to guarantee quality control over the services. Like I said, most of the services are delivered by RBTs. BCBAs deliver very little direct service to clients, so it's all in the hands of the RBTs. They have a very minimal training base. They get 40 hours of training. They pass a test, and from then on, it's that 5%, which is, boy, to me, that's a little scary. I wish it was higher, but it looks as though the field can barely meet the 5% as it is. And from what I'm learning from people who are writing into the ethics hotline, the 5% that RBTs are getting is often very, very thin, and it's really not what I think was intended by the concept of supervision. So it's intended to be an intensive feedback and shaping session, so that supervision really should be behavioral skills training, BST, but it's often not. RBTs are reporting that they will be, if they're working at a school or a clinic, that the supervisor comes into the room, sits down, opens her laptop, and starts answering emails, and then leaves after 45 minutes or an hour, and that gets counted as supervision when there was no actual supervision, no actual behavior shaping on the part of the RBT. And RBTs, and they're writing to me, to the hotline, they are craving quality supervision. They really want to know, what am I doing this right or not? What can I do to do better? I don't want to make a mistake. I don't know how to handle this client, and yet their supervisor is frequently coming up short. Now, we may hear from, and I hope we will, hear from supervisors who are doing this right. But from what I'm hearing, the quality, the actual literal quality of what I think of as supervision, that 5% is weak. Makes me nervous, very nervous.